Having been a nomad now for pretty much exactly 4 years, we've met so many interesting people doing fully passive companies and also really big profitable companies. So I wanted to sit down and make a video about the nomad jobs which can make you a millionaire. Now, first of all, I should acknowledge the clickbait. It's not a clickbait to say millionaire. We personally know the people in this video who have made $1 million or £1 million or, you know, whatever currency you want to work in from doing these businesses. But the part that's a lie from the thumbnail is the jobs part. They're real millionaires, but they're not really jobs. It's more like starting your own thing. I actually think, apart from maybe being a developer in San Francisco who's working remote, who's got some like really hotshot job, I actually think it's pretty close to impossible to be a millionaire from doing a job as a nomad. But if you want to start your own thing, then I think it's totally possible. So in this video, I'm going to give you 10 things which you can do to become a millionaire and still be a nomad. One extra note before we begin is that quite a few of these, maybe you're making 100, 200k per year, and then you make that for 4 or 5 years and then you sell whatever you're working on, which we'll get to at the end. So maybe you're making 150 grand like take home profit for 4 years, that's 600 grand, and then at the end you sell your business for 400 grand, which we're going to go into all of this, but a lot of these, that's kind of the way that I'm structuring it. So the people who we know, they're not necessarily making $1 million a year like take home, but they're making about 150, you know, about 10k a month, and then after a few years they sell the business for a big chunk as well. So we're going to go into all of that, but that's a quick disclaimer on how I've done some of the maths. So without further ado, let's get started. The first one will probably not surprise you if you have been following my channel for a while. It is making online courses. I sell on Udemy. For me, I haven't made $1 million, but it's been really successful. And there's a lot of Udemy instructors who are kind of the poster children of Udemy who have made really, really big money. Several of them have made $1 million or several million, which is super amazing. But also, if you're self-hosting, you can make even more. The reason I sell on Udemy is because it's so easy, it's so passive, but I fully acknowledge you can make a lot more if you're not selling on Udemy. In fact, we know one person, a friend of a friend, who is teaching a like financial course in America, and he's the biggest teacher. He self-hosts for this topic, and he's making 10 million a year. That's insane. So definitely either teaching on Udemy or self-hosting if you can find the right problem that people are really struggling with, and there's a lot of people, and also you can offer a solution that's really great value for money, really high quality course, then it's a win-win, and it's a really, really good way to make an income as a nomad. If you're selling on Udemy, then I don't really think you can exit your course. You can't sell it as a business to somebody else. But I'm sure if you're self-hosting, then you definitely can, because you have traffic, you have repeat customers. So I'm sure something like that would go back to that original model I mentioned, where if you can make, you know, 10, 20k a month for a few years, then you can exit for a big chunk as well. And that could put you at millionaire status. Number 2 is, of course, very common with nomads, something that we have just started working in, and that is Amazon FBA. If you guys don't know what FBA is, I have a whole bunch of stuff on that. I will try and include a playlist to that. But essentially, you buy stuff, maybe in China, maybe in your local country, depends on where you are. You buy maybe 500 units of hairbrushes, and then you send it to Amazon, you make an Amazon listing, and then when people come to Amazon and type in hairbrush, you're the top result. They buy your hairbrush, Amazon sends it to them from that pile of 500 that you sent them. They leave a 5-star review because your hairbrush is amazing. And then when the 500 are sold out, you just send another 500. That's a really straightforward way to do it if you're a nomad, because you don't need to actually touch the product. You have a manufacturer, you send it to Amazon, they send it to the customer. So you're not dealing with running your own product. We know so many people who have been successful on Amazon, people who've exited for $1 million. In this model, at the start, you're very likely to be reinvesting all of the profits into launching new products. But after a while, you are taking it out as a monthly income for you. But also the sale at the end is quite straightforward. There's a lot of Amazon businesses for sale, a lot of people who want to buy them, and also very profitable. So depending on what you're selling, if it's a consumable, you'll get a higher multiple. If it is a whole brand where you have a lot of different products that all kind of fit nicely together, like a selection of cosmetic things, then you'll get a higher multiple for that. If it's a niche that is hard to get into, like maybe medicinal things which have complicated barriers to entry, you'll get a higher multiple. So you'll probably get somewhere between 1 and 8 as a multiple per year. So if you're making a couple of $100,000 a year, then you can sell it for $1 million. I actually want to do a whole separate video about how many products you need and how many sales you need to make your Amazon business worth $1 million. So if you guys would be interested in that, let me know in the comments, because we know so many people who have done this, and I feel like it's one of the most straightforward ways to become a really financially profitable digital nomad. Number 3 is SaaS. If you don't know what SaaS is, it is software as a service. And that basically means a subscription. So for example, I pay for Headspace every month, and Headspace is therefore a SaaS because it's software that I buy in a subscription every month. So it's given to me as a service. SaaS normally refers to things that are sold B2B, so I would make maybe some business software for email analysis, or maybe some software that helps HR companies do their payments, or listing housing properties on Rightmove. All that kind of thing is more of a typical example of SaaS. So we've done several SaaS companies in the past, and companies like Buffer, which are one of the most famous remote companies, they're not necessarily nomadic, but all of their employees are remote. Buffer is obviously a huge company, but it's a SaaS company. And we know a lot of people who've made a lot of money through SaaS, because if you can get repeating customers, you're not having to sell your product afresh each time. So with Udemy, I need new students constantly because people only buy the course once. Maybe they'll buy a couple of courses, but they're not buying the same course on a monthly basis. Whereas with SaaS, especially if your service is good, maybe they'll be with you for several years. So SaaS is a really cool way to make money because you can just see it growing over time. And this is something we've worked in a lot. SaaS is also very good for exiting, so selling it for a big chunk of money at the end. So the way that a sale is calculated is normally by a multiple, either monthly or yearly. So for example, you might sell your company for 2 years worth of the revenue or the profit in advance. So if you carried on running it for 2 years, and if it stayed at the same size, you would make the same amount of money, but you get that money now, and instead someone else takes it on, and maybe they try and grow it, or maybe they use it for passive income, depending on what the company is. The multiple varies massively, but you can normally at least get 2 times multiple, so 2 years in advance. But often you can get 4, 5, 6, who knows. So SaaS is a really good one to exit because you've normally built something that doesn't rely on you. You have regular customers, you might have a couple of employees who are remote, you have a website that's drawing in traffic, you have Facebook ads that are working. All the things that you've built up and learnt over the past few years, you can sell to somebody else. Number 4, I feel like, is such a big hype cliche at the moment, but we know a lot of people who've had success with it, and that is cryptocurrency. I wouldn't recommend you put your life savings in Bitcoin today. You know, do your research, but we know people who aren't necessarily investing in cryptocurrency, like they're not just buying Bitcoin and holding it, although we do know people who've made a lot of money from that, but those days have probably passed. But running things like a mining pool, where if you want to mine for cryptocurrency, you need a lot of computer power. So instead, as a group, you can all put a computer power in and get some of the money out when one person's computer successfully mines the Bitcoin. So mining pools, we know people who've made a lot of money from that, and also from writing algorithms that buy and sell cryptocurrency. So not doing it as a day trader, not logging on in the morning and being like, do I think it's going up or down today? But doing it as an algorithm. If you're a software developer, then that's also a possibility. Number 5 is probably the one that I think is the most difficult, and that is running an agency, either a creative agency, a web agency, a digital agency. And probably how you would start with this is you would be a freelancer. Maybe you're a web developer and you're making websites for various clients. And then because you have such a good reputation, because you do a really amazing job, then you get lots of referrals and you have more clients than you can handle. So then you hire someone else and you're doing half the clients, they're doing half the clients, and then you hire several people, and it kind of just explodes out from there. And this can make a lot of money, and it can be done totally remote as a nomad because all of these products are digital products. So if you're designing a website for someone, you meet them on Skype, you send them the link to the website, you know, you don't necessarily need to be there physically with them. It's not like you're doing construction. I do think this is definitely harder to exit because you're probably more integral to the business. It's harder to outsource yourself. Whereas with an Amazon store, once you've established the products, it's quite easy to train up someone to handle customer inquiries or to do the social media. It feels easier to put yourself out of a job, whereas with an agency, you're normally running the whole thing, you're the manager, so it's a bit harder to sell, but it is totally possible. And I would say the multiple is maybe lower. From my research online, it looks like the average margin for an agency is kind of 10 to 15% profit per year. So you're going to need to be pulling in a lot of money to sell for $1 million, because the multiple will be based on profit. But it's possible. We know people who've done this, and I would say it's one of the harder ones. But if you're starting off in freelancing, if you have a skill that suits itself really well to freelancing and you want to continue in that industry, then you can think big and you can start your own agency. Number 6, I would not recommend to everyone, but has to be on this list because we know several people who have made $1 million from it, and that is gambling. I am definitely not recommending that you go down to the casino and, you know, put all this money down and assume it will come back many multiples over. But we know people who, similar to the cryptocurrency, have written software that kind of gambles profitably. It can calculate which gambles are going to be worth doing, and it can make sure that you're really lowering the risk. You're not gambling in the same way where the house always wins. But we also know people who have won $1 million at poker competitions. Maybe they play online. A lot of people play as part of a group, so you share the winnings and then you also share the risk. So it kind of reduces the risk. It reduces how many games you have to play. But if you're a really successful poker player, then you can win $1 million at a competition in a weekend. So we know people who've done that. I would say a lot of people enjoy playing poker online, so they think, I'll do it as a job. And I think if you're going to get into that, you need to be really analytical with how you track your data. So the people who we know who've been successful with this really treat it as a job. They have a spreadsheet on their earnings and they're tracking, you know, their developments, and they're doing training and they're learning a lot about it. They're not just thinking that they're lucky or they're on a streak. You need to be really analytical with the data of whether you're winning and whether you're losing. Otherwise, it's very easy to be emotional and feel like you're making a profit because you won recently. And actually, when you look back at the historical data, you've made a loss over the past 3 years. So if you're going to get into gambling, it shouldn't just be because you enjoy it, it should be because you have a very analytical mind. Number 7 is kind of similar to Amazon, but is drop shipping. Of course, this is another very popular area with nomads. The way that it's different to Amazon, if you don't know what drop shipping is that rather than buying 500 in advance and sending to Amazon, instead, you find a supplier who can make them, but maybe they have a very bad website or something like that. And you make a website that's kind of rebranded. You know, let's go back to hairbrushes. You buy hairbrushes.com, and then whenever someone buys a hairbrush, you just message your supplier like, hey, quick, can you send a hairbrush to this person? And they just kind of send one, essentially. I wouldn't recommend hairbrushes because it's better if you can do a high-priced product, but that's an example. And so what that means instead is that you don't have to invest money up front to buy several hundred. You just have to find a supplier who's going to be willing to work with you. And the real challenge is building the website and getting traffic to the website. Because with Amazon, they obviously have a ton of buyers. You just have to be the seller who's the top ranked. Whereas with dropshipping, you have to bring customers from somewhere. Maybe you're doing Facebook ads, maybe you're doing Google ads, maybe you're doing Google SEO, answering things in forums. You need to find other ways to bring the traffic. But once you bring the traffic, any orders that you get, you just charge a commission and you send it to your supplier. So again, with dropshipping, similar to Amazon, you can make money every month and every year and draw out the profit as personal income, but you also can sell it at the end. And dropshipping stores are very popular to sell. So you can again do a several year multiple. So you could exit that for $1 million, or you could have been making a few $100,000 each year and then exit for kind of the remaining balance to make it $1 million. Number 8 is doing a mailing list or a private members group and doing high ticket affiliates. So affiliating is, for example, in the description of this video, there's probably some links. Maybe I recommend a website, and if you click through to the website and you spend money on that website, then the website are like, hey Louise, thanks for sending this person over to us because they spent some money with us. Have like 1% or have 5% of what they spent with us. So it doesn't cost the consumer anymore, but it means that the company gives me a little bit of their profit as like a thanks. I appreciate that you sent this person to us and we didn't have to spend money on a billboard because we've got you instead. So affiliate marketing can be really profitable, and sometimes the margins are like 1%. If you're recommending someone to Amazon, they only give you a really small cut. But if you're recommending someone to maybe an electronic product like an online course or an ebook, then often the returns are much higher. They maybe give you 50% back. So if you're recommending something expensive and you're getting a high percentage, you can make a lot of money from doing that. The challenge with this is that you have to build up an audience. So you need to build up a big mailing list or a big YouTube channel or a big blog or a big website in order to be able to make any money from affiliate sales. So the people who we know who've been really successful with this have probably started a blog out of a passion, and then it's just turned into something bigger. And they've ended up with this huge mailing list, which is really engaged. If they recommend something, then their mailing list buy it, and it can be really profitable for them. The cool thing about this is that there's also a lot of what is commonly called double dipping, and that just means selling multiple different ways to the same audience. So of course you can do a mail out to your mailing list and sell something with an affiliate link so you get a kickback, but you also might sell them ebooks or sell them merchandise. Or we actually know someone who was selling their old newsletter mail outs because they were doing really detailed research into like scientific areas, and then they would sell that old newsletter to someone else as a blog post. So that's a really cool way that you can make money from your newsletter kind of in present day, but also if you think outside the box, then maybe you can monetize something from the past as well. So there's a lot of ways to monetize a mailing list or a private members group. Maybe you have monthly subscriptions, maybe you have Patreon donations. So many different ways to do it. Number 9 is being an influencer. I originally had YouTuber for this because, of course, the really big YouTubers are absolutely raking it in, and some of them are travel YouTubers, so they are nomads. They literally have to travel for work. So I think YouTuber can be really successful, but it's very difficult to grow a YouTube channel to that kind of size to become a millionaire. I mean, that's going to take quite a lot of viral videos and a lot of hard work, but I think influencer broadens it out a little bit. So we know a few people who, for example, maybe a fitness influencer. Of course, you can make money from ads on your YouTube, sponsored videos on your Instagram, affiliate links, but you can also sell them products. You can sell ebooks, you can sell training courses, you can sell one-on-one calls. There's so many other ways that you can monetize your audience. So if you can grow a big audience because you have something that you're really passionate about, maybe it's fitness, maybe it's travel, maybe it's makeup. I mean, there's so many different niches on YouTube and on Instagram. So this is a way that you can make a lot of money, and we know people who have become millionaires from being influencers. And finally, number 10 is crowdfunding a physical product. On Kickstarter now, the numbers are pretty insane. There's a lot of people now who are raising millions and millions on Kickstarter. And yes, some of that is going to spend on the product, but it's essentially how you, well, kickstart a company. So you maybe launch one product on Kickstarter and then you can launch multiple more products. You're making good margins. And we know nomads who've done this. So maybe they find a supplier or they find a product while they're traveling, and then they launch it on Kickstarter. So they don't need a physical shop. Some of them sell on Amazon or Shopify or various different ways, but crowdfunding a product is amazing because you don't have to have the money up front. Obviously, that's the whole point. So I find it really interesting how much that's becoming just a normal part of life. If you have an amazing idea for a product that's really unique, then maybe you can go into product development and launch something on Kickstarter. So those are my 10 kind of jobs or industries or careers or examples of ways that you can become a millionaire while being a nomad. Some of them are making $1 million per year, but a lot of them are making 100, 200,000 per year for 4 or 5 years and then doing a big exit at the end. It depends how you want to do it. It depends where your passions lie. Finally, I'm going to include a link in the description to Empire Flippers, which is a website where you can see companies that are for sale. A lot of them are Amazon stores or dropshipping stores, but I think it's a really good place to get inspiration and see the kind of big numbers that people are selling their companies for and get ideas of things that you can start or areas you might be interested in. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope this got you super inspired. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments which of these jobs you think will best suit you. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye!